Okay. I am going to put the fur on Max the dog. So I got most of the interior done. I put the little lip liner on. I put the eyebrow ridge on. I put the neck on. And we're ready. I actually patterned this yesterday too. So I have the pattern right here. Ta-da. And then I have this fur that was picked out to match the actual dog. This fur is really cool. I've used it on a couple of little things. It brushes out really nice. You can also trim it really well, and it has a really nice. I think it's like a 3-inch nap. 3-inch. Is that called nap? 3-inch pile. 3-inch pile to it that really looks good on puppets and hide seams real well. First of all, I want to find out. There's no stretch to it really at all. There's a little bit of stretch, but not much. But you want to make sure that you have it going the right way. You want to make sure it's going down. And the other thing that I always do on these dogs, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems to serve me pretty well, is I always try to make the fur go away from the nose. So it's always kind of going back and down. So I don't always follow that on the arms, but at least on the head to the body. That's what I try to do. So it all goes the same way. So I'm going to switch to the overhead here. It's a lot of fur. Okay, so okay. So I want to make sure that the fur is going down and away from the nose. So let's see here. This fur doesn't really have a defined pile. Which is kind of good, actually. I didn't boil this. This is actually how it came out of how it actually, I think it's going to go this way. This is the way it came out of the out of the package, I guess, off the roll. And here's the pattern. Oh, I should have marked. Oh, there is no stretch on this, so it doesn't really matter. But the stretch should always kind of run this way across the nose. Oh, one last thing I never did on this is I need to mark all these registration marks. This is kind of a cool tool. I think I got it on eBay or on Amazon. It saves a lot of time doing these notches. And this will just help to line everything up when I'm sewing it together. It helped a lot more not to do it right over the stuff I was about to cut out. Let's see. Okay. All right. So unlike a lot of puppets, like like I said, on the dogs, I tend to make it as in one piece if I can. Um, uh, just because I don't like to have that really defined neck seam. Like on Miss Piggy, you notice that there's a her necklace kind of covers up the gap, or like on Fozzie, he has his necktie that kind of closes up that gap where the head and the body are two separate pieces. I suppose you could do the same thing with a collar, and maybe they'll do that with this puppet, but for the most part, I usually try and make it one piece if I can, which probably isn't the best way of doing it. But... okay, so I'm going to mark all the registration marks. Try and keep my bald spot out of camera range. And I'm going to hand sew this, so I'm going to not have any seam allowance with it. I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace both of them before I cut either, so I make sure I get them oriented the right way. There's nothing worse than cutting out two lefts or two rights. And I usually try and do it in such a way so that like the noses both point towards each other, or the back of the heads point towards each other, so that I have the orientation of the fur going the same way. So you always want to cut fur from the back, and the best way to do it is with a razor blade, or with a Personna, I guess, and use a new one too. So I'm gonna have to pull one out of there. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna try and even those up when I get done. get a new razor blade. Okay, here goes nothing. Okay, here we go. Okay, got one side done. Okay. And while there is some some fur, not nearly as much as if you cut it from the front or use scissors on it. Not the biggest fan of fur. All right. The only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottoms of these off with a ruler. Okay. Actually, you know what? Okay. So I'm going to put this on backwards. I'm going to pin it right down the center line here. I pin this in such a way so that I can kind of make sure all the registration marks are in the right spot. Also, I want to try and get all the fur on the inside. So the reason you do this, at least my reason for doing this, is I want the tension on the thread to be correct so it doesn't buckle. And in doing it this way, you when you turn it the other way, the tension will be right on the other side. That makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's why I do it. Okay, so that'll be most of it there. I think that I'm going to only pin the back, and then I'm going to and actually I don't want it to go all the way down. I want to go to about this far because the tail will go on there at some point, and I don't have that done yet. So I think that'll do it for now, and I'm gonna start sewing it. Now, with any luck, that's gray and not purple. As you can tell me in the comments, but I think it's gray. Better, but it looks a little. I wish they would just put on these packages what the color is. Assigned. Okay, that's pink. That's pink. I'm tempted to just use black so that I know that I'm not using pink. I think that's gray. Okay, we're gonna go with that one. So if you're sewing from the front, you can use the ladder stitch, which from what I understand is not as strong as a whip stitch, but it's also harder to do with a long pile of fur like this. So I like to do it this way. Okay. Maybe I guess I could zoom in a little bit. Oh, did I fall over? I'm trying to get it so you can actually see it, and so that I can actually see it. So I'm just like tucking the fur inside here. Oh, these pins are killing me. Actually, I kind of feel like I need to start over on this because I think I didn't get that first. Okay, let's try over. Okay, the reason I started over is because I think I didn't close up the very end of it at first. Let's see if I can get this right now. I almost wonder if this angle would. Hopefully, you guys enjoy all this silence and sewing. Tell you what, with as little stretch as there is to this, it's you just kind of hope that it works out, because otherwise otherwise you're kind of messed up. So I should probably cut this frame, this thread, start over and do it from the other way. Let me, okay. So I'm trying to keep this as flat as possible while I'm doing it, so that way when I turn it, the stretch will be okay. I mean, the tension on the thread will be okay. It's not really going to matter that much for this fabric because there's no stretch and the fur is so long, but you're trying to work with the materials as best you can. Tell you what, it's so much easier being able to work it this way because you're not as worried as much. You're able to see the. I'm able to see it better from this angle, and I'm also not catching these pins with the loop of the thread. I am trying to keep as much of the pile inside there as I can. Hopefully you can see how much faster I was able to do that side than the first side, because the angle's a little bit easier. Okay. I don't know that I'm going to sew this entire thing on camera, because what riveting video content that would be. But I think this is going to end up looking a lot like Sprocket before I trim it. You're not able to see a darn thing. Okay, let's see. So I'm trying to keep the less fur I get caught inside this seam, the less I'm going to have to pick it out. And I'm also going to try and I'm basically going to do the entire front, the entire back seam as one thing up until the tail. And then I'm going to probably not do the lower jaw, because then it'll make it easier for me to glue it. But we'll see. I'm basically making a big old sock. I'm trying to keep these lined up in such a way that these registration marks still stay in place. Can you see that registration mark? Oh, I have my first comment. Let's see what it says. Just arrived here live. What stitch are you using? Is that the baseball stitch? No, that is it's basically just a big whip stitch. I'm doing all the way around. I probably could use the baseball stitch. It might be a little stronger, but because I'm doing it from the back, I don't want to use something like the ladder stitch or the baseball stitch, because it really doesn't matter. On the front side, you're gonna see it. It actually looks pretty. It's pretty. The seam gets hidden, whereas the baseball stitch, I believe, is more to use it from the front, and it keeps it in place. Let's see. I'm not sure. I'm just using the very basic whip stitch. Thank you for being my first comment. Okay. Zoom that back. That's a little bit better. Yep, whip stitch. Oops. Okay, I'm going to tie this off just so you can kind of see what this will look like. So once this is turned, like, you're not going to be able to see that at all. Which is the nice thing about a long pile fur, is that you are able to hide a lot of your crime. What do they call it? Hiding your crimes. See what else we got here. I just thank you for doing the lives. I appreciate seeing your process. Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is people overcomplicate a lot of this stuff. I was lucky to work with a lot of professional builders, a lot of various builders really early on in my career. And so I'm hoping that seeing the way that I work and how other people work helps other people kind of develop their own skills. And there's not like one size that fits all. There's a lot of different processes that kind of work into this. And with every little explanation, I can feel my blood sugar going lower and lower. So I'm going to probably cut this one short, so I'm going to go eat something. But okay, I'm going to tie this off, and I'm going to take a little break, maybe set up my cameras a little bit better so we can see this a little bit better. Oh, I'm so excited. Somebody actually wrote in my comment, so. All right, I'm going to cut this short, but eventually I'm going to be able to basically everything's still lining up right. So I'm going to run a stitch all the way up to here to the dart that I did, and then I'll go down the back to about this point, which is where the tail will be. And then I will do the same thing on the front to some extent, although I'm going to leave the jaw. So I'm working my way up to this point now. And the dart would be right about here. And then I'll work my way down to about this point, and then I'm going to leave the front of the mouth open, but then I'm going to work my way all the way down the belly. And then I'll turn it over and be able to glue the mouth plate in. So I will be back in a little bit after my blood sugar's back to normal, and we'll take it from there. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm still learning. So I will. I'll actually maybe schedule it. That's a good idea. I'll do that for the next one. All right. See you later.